Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that will be analyzing today, but make sure you stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store. But yeah, guys, no trades for myself this week. I was predominantly looking to take advantage of some dollar strength, so shorting the major pairs, Euro USD, Pound USD, Aussie dollar. I was waiting for a breakout to short, USD CAD, I was waiting for some longs. So I was heavily looking for that dollar strength, but that never happened. We kind of got some up down, mostly consolidation in the DXY, and then finally we've actually got a breakout in the opposite direction I was expecting. So I didn't actually get any trades because that was my main focus. And now that we've broken in the opposite direction, I'm looking to turn around that bias. So if we jump into Euro USD, you can see we've had a very incredible big break to the upside. I was looking for the market to go and take out some of these lows and eventually come up, well, to test that low and eventually break through that low as well. However, the market respected support pretty well, and eventually we've got a big break to the upside past this high. So I cannot be looking to short Euro USD anymore with this price action because we're starting to print some higher highs and higher lows. Borderline consolidation, but now that we've seen some really good momentum, I'm looking at this as some nice upwards trending structure, and I'm looking at more upside going into next week. And of course, we look at the daily chart as well. Pretty strong rejection. Price tried to break through the lows here on the left, but essentially failed to do so. A few rejections, and now price is flying to the upside. So I'm looking at more upside for next week. I'm looking at this area here. It was a nice level of support briefly, which gave us a nice pullback to the upside. This is kind of the last big pullback for euro. After that, we've been quite corrective, falling to the downside. So this level has some interest for myself, possibly some areas here as well. Again, I'm not too sure how far I'll look to push the trade for Euro USD because this is still a very impressive bearish leg, and this could just be a bigger correction for more downside. So I'm still not going to be trying to push this trade too far for Euro USD, but 100% I will be looking for more upside for Euro USD, not looking at selling for the time being, at least with this bullish structure. So for next week, I'm looking at a retest of this area here, 1.066, big move to the upside for NFP, nice fresh level of resistance. Of course, now will be turned as support. If you can see some nice rejections there, I will be expecting more upside for euro. Next higher low, and then we can target that level there, 1.07. 800 roughly. So more upside for Euro USD, starting print some nice bullish structure, momentum's looking good, which is the key thing, and a strong break of the high as well. So now just looking for a pullback, retest some prior structure, resistance turn support, and after that I'm expecting euro to continue to the upside. And of course with DXY finally breaking to the downside out of that consolidation, looks like we can expect more downside for the DXY, for the dollar. Therefore you would normally expect 90% of the time euro to do the exact inverse. So if you can see a nice pullback into that level, 1.06700, I got it as, watch for some confirmations in that area, and push back to highs or into this level here, 1.078, looks pretty likely. So that's the analysis going into next week for Euro USD. Okay, so moving on to dollar yen. So dollar yen started off the week pretty bullish, big move to the upside. However, short lasted. Market came back down pretty hard, looking like a nice V-shaped pattern here. Had a big one on gold recently. Now we've got another one here on dollar yen. Big impulse to the upside. Not as strong. I wouldn't say it's equally as impulsive on the way back down, but pretty impulsive. And typically these patterns mean that the market is getting ready to break lower. So I'm expecting more downside for dollar yen. And again, let's not forget we're still trading a massive daily level of resistance, well, daily, weekly, monthly. Actually, this is a very significant high for dollar yen coming to this 150, 151 area. You can see last time we were here, humongous move to the downside. We're still rejecting that same level. There's still a good possibility that we could see some downside. So I did say coming into this week, I'm quite neutral on dollar yen. I'm not really wanting to buy the market, even though the trend is bullish because we're coming to such a big level. I don't want to sell it yet because we haven't got the characteristics, the breaker structure, the patterns I'm looking for to actually sell yet. The market's still trending up, so I need the break of structure, which looks like it is imminent. So once we do get that break of structure, I will be looking to sell dollar yen. I do like the trade coming from such a big level. The trend looks very exhausted as well, and if we are going to see some dollar weakness from the DXY, potentially this could pull it down as well. So if we can get a nice break of structure, some lower highs, I'll be more than happy to look to short the pair, retest some structure, presumably this high, or some structure that could develop as the week continues. But this does look like a good area. But again, the break of structure is important because for all we know, we could see price just come down, respect the low, and actually just continue higher with this trend, which has been going on for forever, it seems like. So we can get the break of structure, break of 148.776. break for the low there, see some lower highs, happy to look for a retest somewhere, catch next lower high, and start shorting the downside. In terms of targets, we can looking at some of these lows here. I wouldn't say there is a crystal clear target I'm aiming for, but I'll be targeting some of these lows depending on the risk reward as well. So that is the plan going into next week for dollar yen. Okay, so moving on to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD came into the week pretty bullish, looking for another higher low for this one. However, we did not see that form. Market broke for that level pretty easily there, and is looking pretty bearish with this impulsive drop to the downside. So going to next week, simply looking at a correction of this and a continuation lower. I am looking at a couple areas. Number one being the area I was looking at this week to long from is now going to be a solid place to short. Also this high here as well, which kind of lines up nicely with that brief level of support. So if you can see a nice correction for dollar yen, I mean, not dollar yen, sorry, dollar CAD. It looks like we could be forming a pretty unorthodox, if you will, head and shoulder pattern left, head, right shoulder, very strong impulse to the downside, looking for the correction, and some nice continuation lower. Again, looking for that DXY to drag us to the downside as well. But looking at some of these lows here as targets, this is a major low because this gave us our new highs. So this looks like a nice healthy target to take profit at, manage your trade, stop loss to break even. It's up to you how you're going to manage that, but for myself, I'll be expecting more downside for dollar CAD, just simply a correction of that impulse onto a couple of these levels. Of course, first things first, this level here, I'll see how you react with 1.373. If we break a little bit high, I'll be looking at the high there at 1.378, but essentially looking to catch that next lower high for some more downside. And again, we've had a pretty big reaction off some higher time frame levels, particularly the level on the daily chart. If I quickly scale to the daily chart, this level here on the left, price had a pretty big reaction there, tried to break through, but essentially failed to really break through. We had a few wicks above the level, some candle closures on the lower time frames, but nothing really significant on the daily chart. So after that, pretty strong move to the downside. Now looking at some corrections, this looks like a nice level, 1.373, 1.378 there. We'll see what type of price action we can get. If we break through the first one, then simply we'll look to see what we can do at the second one. But yeah, expecting more downside for dollar CAD next week into the low here at 1.357 next week. Okay, so on to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound this week, I was looking for some upside, for some retracement onto some areas around 0.867, which we're coming into now. However, most of the week we just saw pretty much consolidation. Price was struggling to break through a very big level in the daily time frame. If I quickly drop to the daily chart, you can see this is a very big level here on the daily time frame. Rejection 1, 2, briefly 3, and now we're coming a fourth time. Fired a lot of wicks to the upside there. Market struggled to break through. Now we're seeing a big shift in momentum here. So I'm actually going to look to be selling next week rather than buying. I know we are coming to some areas where some buyers will be sitting, some nice confluence. However, with that big rejection there, I do not want to be buying Euro Pound next week. Of course, it's all probabilities, but after this reaction here, I'd rather be looking for some sells. So for Euro Pound, now that we have cleared the consolidation, what I'm looking at is simply just impulse correction and another impulse to the downside. I do like a retest of this area here, big level of support. If we can come back and retest it, try and catch the next lower high, one over there, low, lower high, lower low. Of course, we could come down a little bit lower, but essentially looking at lower high and a retest of that consolidation and looking for a big move to the downside with targets, presumably down at this low here. If the market does drop, let's say to around here, then pulls back, then I'll be more than happy just to take my profit at that low rather than stretch it a little bit further, because Euro Pound conditions are very choppy. In these conditions, you don't really want to push the trade too far because you just get so much speculation, so much kind of weird moves that are unprecedented. So it's not like a trending market where you can push your trade a little bit further and just use the wind in the sails, use the momentum to carry your trade. In these conditions, you will kind of want to take your profit sooner rather than later, just because the market's so choppy. Yeah, if we create a low, I'll target that low. If not, then I'll look at the low here at 0.862. But essentially the plan will be looking to short Euro Pound, big break of structure, big break out the consolidation. Now looking to catch that next lower high on the retest of the low. Got some nice confluence there. Stop loss above the level, and again targets either the low or this low here, 0.862. So that will be the plan next week for Euro Pound. Okay, so on to Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar, I was looking to short this one this week. I had this on the watch list. I was waiting for price to clear the lows here, look for break and retest the downside, and then look to target the lows here. However, it looks like we're having a big break to the upside here out of that consolidation. So nothing's really changed on the higher time frame. My bias is still very bearish on the higher time frames, and when I mean higher, talking mainly daily, weekly, monthly, those kind of time frames together as a whole. I'm expecting more downside for Aussie dollar with this bearish trend. I'm still looking at push into the low. However, with this characteristic, it looks like we'd have a deeper pullback like we did over here, and potentially over here. Potentially we got a big level of support, 2, 3. Could see price come up into that, start falling some lower highs later on, and then again start rolling over to the downside. So I do think we can see more upside, especially after the price action this week. I was actually looking for buys on Friday because we did have a big breakout on Thursday, so I was looking for price to come back and retest this area, some nice resistance, turn support. If we can come back, retest that level, that would be much appreciated. But of course, Aussie dollar was just very, very bullish, so yeah, no trade for myself. But now that we've had all of this momentum, a correction should be imminent. Of course, we could keep flying, but if we can get a correction, that would be nice. I'm looking at these two highs here. First one being that one, 0.644. Second one being this one, 0.638. If you can get a correction to one of these two levels, I'm expecting to see the next move to the upside for Aussie dollar. And again, like I've highlighted, we've got a big level here on 0.66 where potentially the market could be getting towards, then eventually look to sell back off again. But in the meantime, we do have a lot of room to the upside to take advantage of if we can see the necessary retracements. But yeah, this very corrective channel that the market's been trading in has completely been broken out with this impulse leg. So simply looking at correction and an impulse here to the upside as well. So keep an eye on the retest of these two areas, because for me, that's kind of the only places that look logical for me to actually buy Aussie dollar from. If you kind of just start floating to the upside and keep chugging higher, then there really is no trade for me unless we see a deeper pullback. Of course, on the lower time frames, there could be some opportunities, but for H hourly, this is kind of what I'm looking at for Aussie dollar next week. So keep an eye on some pullbacks, 0.644, 0.639, we'll call it. And we've got that higher time frame target level all the way up there, 0.659, 0.66. So that'll be the plan next week for Aussie dollar. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. NZD CAD, really nice move to the upside this week, which is kind of what we were looking for coming into the week. I was actually looking for some buys on the retest of this level here, if we could tag the trend line, but unfortunately we just missed out on the test of that trend line. Was looking for price to come and test the level, test the trend line, and then look for some longs on the rebounds of that area. Unfortunately, we just missed the trend line there, so I didn't get into any entries, but a lovely move to the upside. And again, looks like we're coming back into this high here, not too far away now. So again, for NZD CAD, the plan is looking for another pullback, next high low, and continuous path into that high. Now, high time frames for NZD CAD, I would still mark as bearish, although we are respecting the low pretty well. So this is why I wasn't looking for sales for NZD CAD, because it has such a strong reaction off that low. So looking for upside back into that kind of neckline of that double bottom pattern. However, as we can zoom out, you can see the higher time frames are still pretty bearish with NZD CAD. So I do think higher time frames are still bearish. Therefore, I won't be looking to try and push this trade any further than the high that is marked on the 4H time frame, because this is an area where sellers will be sitting and try and sell price down. We've had a pretty strong reaction with the low as well, so price may break through, but of course I'm going to leave that to the market to do, and then I'll react to what the market gives us. But on one hand, buys do look good back into that high there, 0.82, got some nice confidence for the market to gravitate towards. However, just the risk toward the range there is not quite big. So I think personally for me, excuse me, I'll be focusing on the other pairs, 60 pips room there. So on the hourly time frame, probably not the best risk reward, but if you can scale a little bit lower, look for retest 15, 30, you might get a decent 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 potentially. So if you are looking on the lower time frames, I think NZD CAD is a nice trade to take. Very simple, looking for the break and retest. Momentum's already in the market now. Very nice impulse, correction, impulse, So looking for that to continue back to the high, and potentially we might see some sells back down again. And of course, I'll wait for price start giving some bearish structure, and then I'll look to sell the market on the way back down. But at the moment, we'll just see how price reacts. But NZD CAD for next week, still looking at a bit more upside into the high at 0.82176. Got some nice daily confidence in that area. But first, I see a retest of 0.815 and then some buys shortly after. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So pound NZD, we broke out this consolidation, lovely move to the downside. I did say coming into the week, we're kind of looking for price to push bearish first, then look for some pullbacks and continuation. So we have kind of seen the move, but didn't kind of get the setup I was looking for, which was of course the break first to start giving us those lower highs and the lower lows, then looking for a retest of that. But now we've kind of just got a consolidation which price has broken out of. So I still do think the shorts are definitely there. If you can look for a retest of the consolidation, look to catch that next lower high or kind of first lower high, because we had equal highs over there, break of structure. So kind of the first lower high, then we can anticipate some more downside. Again, higher time frames, we've had a pretty strong reaction from this weekly level here. It looks like we could be coming back for a retest, then potentially we might be looking at price coming all the way back up again and seeing a lot more upside. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for pound NZD. First, looking at some short to medium term selling opportunities back down to 2.045, 2.04. Then we see how price reacts. Probably some buys could be followed shortly after. But at the moment, I really like this opportunity here for pound NZD. Really nice break to the downside, a lot of momentum. Looking for price to come into this area. Don't necessarily have to push it into the weekly level. I would say this low is also a good place for a take profit. If you were to retrace, it kind of lines up with the low that we've already wicked into now. That does make sense to take your profit at that level. So it'll be up to you in terms of your risk reward, but in terms of direction, looking at some downside next week for pound NZD. Let's just see if we can get a nice retest of 2.07379, which is the low of the consolidation. Look for a retest and looking to continue that move lower. So that's the analysis going to next week for pound NZD. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen this week, I was looking for some sales to start the week coming back into this area, but price was just far too bullish. Price rallied straight through that level and gave us a big inverse head and shoulder pattern. Left shoulder, head, and the right shoulder. Maybe not the easiest pattern to spot, but definitely fits the structure, and a V-shape pattern as well. V-shape reversal pattern, impulse down, impulse up. Even the impulse back up again was even stronger than the impulse down, which is a good look. But with this price action here, I'm expecting more upside, at least back into the high here, which is 109,900, possibly the high over there as well. If I do expand to the daily time frame, we have come back into a pretty big daily level here. So you can see that's the prior swing high in the daily chart, big move to the downside. We're kind of trading in that vicinity. So if we can see a nice break to the upside, kind of continue this bullish trend, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, can see a move back to the high there, which we talked about. And then, like I said, potentially even the high all the way over there. Definitely if we can get a solid daily candle closure above 109,400, I think that'll probably invite us for a nice continuation higher. So for CAD Yen, I am shifting my bias from bearish to bullish here. Again, if you can get a nice retest of that level, that'd be a fantastic place to go long. Of course, on the retest of the high there as well, so kind of nice double level confluence there. Of course, you want to watch out for the high here. That could be a nice place. Bank some partials, move your stop loss to break even. Then if we're lucky and see a big breakout, we've got the highs over here to target at 111 or slightly just above 111 there, which should provide a nice risk to reward. But of course, do watch out for that, because we definitely could do something like this as well. So CAD Yen, more upside I'm expecting, certainly after price action and the characteristics of it this week. Key level need to break through 109,400, because again, we just might sell off from that. And in that case, I'm not really interested in selling the pair or buying it, but if we can break above, that would spark my interest. So looking for a pullback onto 109,400 and targeting 111 eventually. Okay, so over to pound USD. So pound USD, very bullish end to the week here, breaking through some important significant highs. So I am shifting my bearish bias to bullish now, and looking at upside going to next week. But this week I was looking for a lower high in this vicinity, never formed. I was looking for a slightly more impulsive push to the upside and then get the sell opportunity. That's why I was reluctant to find some trades in this area. Sort of what we got here, nice corrective push. and then we had a big impulse up, lower high, nice drop to the downside. The fact that we were so corrective meant we had a lot of lower time frame levels of support, which the market probably would struggle to break. So I was reluctant to look for sell opportunities towards the end of the week. Then of course NFP happened and a humongous move to the upside. So now I'm looking at buying pound USD again, following that kind of big reversal we're having with the dollar. I'm looking at attacking this to the upside. However, I do not like this high here. I know it's a big breakout, big candle there, a lot of momentum, but in the grand scheme of things, the distance we cleared the level is not enough for me to consider a feasible breakout that I'll look to trade in my trading style. I'll look for a deeper pullback and a push into this level. That would definitely interest me because we've had a very nice push, at least 2 candles as well, and we've cleared the level by some proportion. So if we can get a nice pullback into this area, 1.228, I'll be more than happy to look to long the pair. If we have even more upside early hours of Monday, then I'll consider a retest of the high there. But if the market kind of just consolidates and just messes around in this area, then I'd want to see a deeper pullback into that level, which is trading at 1.228. I would even consider this area here as well, a brief area of resistance where all that momentum came from. That to me looks like a nice place to look to go long there for pound USD as well. But of course, this level is higher, so that's the area we will consult with first. If that doesn't hold, then I'll look at this area. But essentially the plan, again, for most of the dollar pairs, but pound USD especially as well, they're just looking to follow that impulsive leg that we've had after NFP impulse. Now looking at a correction, then looking to take that in the same direction, as long as everything shapes up, get our confirmations and whatnot. This is the area I'm looking at first, 1.228 and then 1.222. And yeah, that's the plan for pound USD going into next week. Okay, so on to pound CAD. So pound CAD, nice bullish move this week, kind of happening to the T. Nice bullish move coming into this area. I was actually looking to take this trade, but it was very, very close to NFP, so I opted out of it. But it played out pretty well. Of course, another day, potentially could have seen a nice big move to the downside. Against all probabilities, you're just playing out the probabilities, but the entry was just a little bit too close to NFP to my liking. The entry was on this bullish candle here, and then we had NFP over here. So in the next kind of 2-3 hours we had NFP coming out, which is kind of cutting it a little bit close for my liking, so I opted out taking the trade. But again, the entry there was very, very powerful. Nice bullish engulfing candle, retesting the area with the trend line, retesting that resistance, following this bullish structure here, low, high, low, high, low, high, looking for the next low, and again looking to continue the move to the upside as we did come into a big level here on the left, which we kind of broken through a little bit. But now going into next week, again, we're looking at that structure continuing. We're still printing higher highs and higher lows. We're still respecting structure. We're still seeing impulse legs higher. And we're still creating new highs, so I can only be looking to buy in this structure here for pound CAD. Again, essentially, I was looking for that big impulse correction and the impulse against the downside, but we never really formed those lower highs, and as we can see, we are forming the higher lows there. So now the plan for next week is again looking for the next pullback to the downside. Not so interested in taking a retest of the high here. Again, too shallow of a breakout and not seeing much other confluence. If we can get a deeper one again, similar to what we had just before NFP this week, that would be fantastic. And again, looking to ride that to the upside. Possibly we could be seeing even bigger move now that we have starting to clear this level here, possibly to this area here, which is 1.71. So there could be a lot more upside to be had for pound CAD. But again, this is still kind of a very corrective leg compared to this leg. So again, I'm still looking at this as a correction for eventually a bigger sell-off. So I'm being a bit more conservative with my take profit levels if I do get into a trade. And if you do get that break of structure, I'll be more than happy to shift my bias from bullish to bearish again and start looking to attack to the downside. But at the moment, looking for a retest of 1.679 for next week. A bit more upside, again, at least back to highs, but potentially this area here as well at 1.71. Okay, so moving on to pound yen. So pound yen, I'm liking the structure now. It's been very, very choppy, just consolidating for quite a while now. I think the past maybe 2 videos I've done on the weekly analysis, 2 segments for pound yen have just been the same thing of consolidating, waiting for a price to break higher or price to break lower, and then starting to plan some trades from that. And now we've actually seen the break higher, so now we can of course plan some trades with this break to the upside. I've been talking about a target of the high here, 186. or almost 187 actually. But as we can see, this is the weekly chart, by the way. The trend is still very much to the upside on the higher time frame, still seeing a lot of bullish momentum. So now that we've broken to the upside, it's probably the higher time frame just stepping back into the market and looking to drive the market higher. And it does look like we printed that next higher low in comparison to this low here, new high, potentially new low. Now we're going to slowly make our way back to the high there, at least from a probability standpoint there. Of course, we may sell off again, who knows, but all we can do is take into account the information, price action present us, look at the most probabilistic move for the market, and then of course base our trades from that. And for me, that would be to the upside, back up to 187 almost. So now that we've had a confident break to the upside, we had a bit of a fake out during the week here, did close above, but again not very confidently, came back in, but now the market has really cemented itself to the upside, looking for a retest of the high here, or even better, retest of this level slightly just underneath the level. Depends how candlesticks form and how we retrace, of course, but essentially these are the two areas I'm considering for some entries. And again, targets back to the high there. Of course, you can probably consider this high here as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be, back to the high, the swing high. Again, based on risk reward, your management plan, that will come into play. But the swing high on the daily, weekly, monthly time frames, kind of what we're working towards eventually. So could potentially leave small position to run to see if we actually go and hit the high and potentially take it out as well. But that will be the plan for pound yen for the next kind of couple of weeks now, as I'm expecting this bullish momentum to continue. So looking for some retracement into 184.260, which is the first level. Second level, 183.800, 183.800. If you can get some nice confirmations from one of those levels, looking to buy and target the highs for next week for pound yen. Okay, so over to gold. So gold, not much this week, pretty much just consolidation, trapped between some highs there, some lows here, not really moving anywhere. But the key thing that I was talking about coming into the week is that we are trading above 1980. I said if we can hold above 1980, retest that support even, then we could be looking at a continuation back to 2050. And so far we are holding above 1980, which is this level. And we've actually come back to retest it as support there briefly on the daily time frame. Maybe not the most convincing break and retest. The candles are kind of throwing wicks either side here, not really seeing much momentum, but again, all it takes is just one big candle to really send us on our way. So from a daily standpoint, it looks like we're holding comfortably above 1980. So again, the bullish bias is still intact, still looking for eventually a move back to 1980, sorry, not 1980, that level there is 1980, for a move back into the high there at 2050. So the all-time resistance high for gold. But in terms of trading opportunities, I'm waiting for price to break the high. I'm not really looking to get involved here. It's just very, very choppy. Maybe there's a break and retest here on the lower time frames. But again, I don't like the conditions here. If we can see price start breaking through the high, look for some pullbacks, be on our way for the next leg. We're starting to print these higher lows potentially. Again, this low here is not confirmed yet because we haven't created a higher high. But again, since we're holding that 1980 level, I'm expecting that higher high to come eventually. If we suddenly break to the downside, and of course that just means a whole different bias altogether, looking for a break and retest and then looking for some sells. But if we can hold the 1980, break through the high, then again just looking for high, low, high, low, high, low, retest some broken resistance, now turn support, fantastic. And of course looking for our entries on the retest of that area, and then 2050 is not too far away from us at this standpoint, if we do get that nice break and retest. So that's the plan for gold, really straightforward, just looking at following that bullish trend, holding above a very key level on the daily charts, and now just looking to trade higher as long as we stay above 1980. Like I said, if you do break underneath, that completely changes the bias, and we'll actually be looking for a break and retest to go lower. But for now, we're just focusing on the long. So yeah, keep an eye on 2006 roughly, that's the level. And yeah, looking to target 2050 for next week. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, not much this week. Again, pretty much a consolidation here, stuck between some highs and lows. Poked our head a little bit above the water there, but we came straight back underneath. So the market not really doing too much for me. And again, we are trading a pretty big level here as well. Big weekly area of price support, time resistance. We're testing this level for the first time. So I'm expecting to see some type of reaction here. Again, there's still a lot of momentum present for the buyers at the moment. So again, not too surprised if you do see a big move. Again, Bitcoin can be that kind of exponential vehicle which just keeps going. So that could potentially happen. But again, from a trading standpoint, we don't want to be buying at this area here. If anything, you want to be selling, but I'm more focused on the buy, since at this moment in time, we're still creating this bullish structure, consolidation, and now we've broken up again. So now looking at a pullback onto this area here for the next higher low, and again looking to continue that path to the upside, at least back into that same resistance to where we came from. So for Bitcoin, want to see a move to the downside. Hopefully we can get that, and if you can find some buys around 3,800 more or less, that is a great place to look to long. Again, I do recommend more 4H daily entries for this one, not so much lower time frame, not because you can't, but because of the size of the level and the proportionality as well. If you get a smaller stop loss, sure, your risk reward might be pretty high, but I think you probably have a much higher chance of getting stopped out definitely in these conditions. But if you give yourself a bit more room, could catch a really nice run to the upside if you do have a successful retest of this level. But 3,800 looks pretty good there to me. Of course, in this vicinity here, not much to do there. Bitcoin just moving sideways, waiting for the next move, whether we're going to break up or break down. That'll be up to Bitcoin, of course, but coming to these areas, then we can discuss and see what happens with price around 30, 31K. So yeah, still bullish on Bitcoin. Want to see some retracement, of course, but still looking at buys around 31K. So analysis has barely changed since last week, but as long as we stay in that vicinity, not looking to touch it. So that's my analysis going to next week for Bitcoin. Okay, so guys, onto our bonus pair. Last but not least, it is Euro AUD. I really like the price action with this pair. It has been quite choppy. You can see very up and down, up and down, up and down, but it looks like we are starting to pick a direction. We've broken through these lows pretty aggressively there with that nice impulsive leg, and now I'm looking at a lower high to continue its path back down into this low and potentially beyond as well. If I do scale to the higher time frame on the daily chart, we've had a pretty big rejection of this daily swing high here. This was a big swing high, market pullback, higher low, new higher high, came back underneath the level. I was looking for a higher low here for the market to continue back to highs, but we failed at the high there, and pretty strong reaction at that high. So because we've rejected the level pretty aggressively, seeing some nice breaker structure in the 4H, which we just discussed, it looks like we're pretty likely to go and take out this wick low here, probably come back into some of these areas here as well, just underneath around 1.625. So that's the plan next week for Euro AUD. Potentially could go further as well, maybe these areas, but of course for the next week we just play at these two levels here as substantial targets. Again, if you get the pullback we're looking for, probably can get 1 to 3, 1 to 4, maybe 1 to 5 depending on the entry. So no need to think too far ahead, but I'm looking at a retest of this low here. If we can get the next lower high, I've already got 3 previous lower highs, 1, 2, 3. Let's see if we can get the 4th one. Nice correction into that area. That's where I'll look for my entries, and then look to take advantage of that lower high if it forms, of course, and then look to target at least the low here. Again, if I get 1 to 3 into there, I'm out the trade. No need to push it a little bit further, but depending on how things set up, I might leave a small position to run into that 1.62486 level we discussed on the daily time frame. But essentially, this is what I'm looking at in terms of a setup of market structure. Let's see if we can get pulled back into 1.659 and shorts back into 1.62486 eventually. And that, ladies and gentlemen, does sum up the analysis for this week. If you did enjoy, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. Make sure you do hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Leave a comment down below any pairs that you're excited to take advantage of next week. I'm interested to find out. But nonetheless, guys, enjoy your weekend, and I'll catch you all next week.